What's happening, sports fans? Christian Pedersen, Colton, Tull. This is San Diego Prep Insider, and it is football.
Scrimmage week, baby.
Scrimmage week, baby. I don't want to even approach the is this week 0 or 1 or whatever. I just want to say scrimmage week. That's so nice and easy for us. The interns is high as well because it is an exciting time of year. Football, like Colton mentioned, is back. So we've got to look now at the breakdown for division, what we are just going to simply call Division 1. One of our questions within Division 1 is who moves up to open. I think that it's kind of foolish early on in the year to do, who is the open teams as anything other than just fun clickbaity headlines, because we just don't know. There could be one crazy win or loss. There could be something wonky with the schedule. Like, I feel like open divisions maybe like a week 5 or 6 kind of thing. But you know what? Let's start at least there with the hypothetical. Colton, of the teams in Division 1, let's get this one out of the way. Do you have a couple or a field already picked out that you're like, hey, these are my preseason teams that I'm leaning towards being open division?
Yeah, I think open division, it's probably about 6, maybe 7 teams, depending on how you feel about like Lincoln and Madison. It comes down to Carlsbad's going to be there. They've been to the division or the open division finals the last 2 years in a row. So you definitely got to watch them because they want to get it done. They've been there, but they haven't finished the job. They're returning, obviously, 5-star quarterback Julian Sain his junior year. So all eyes are going to be on that kid. He's getting 2 transfers in Justin Johnson as well as Zach Marshall, the tight end from Santa Fe. So his offense got revamped. He graduated some guys, brought in guys just as good. A big junior I'm looking to step up is Justice Woods over there. He's been in the program, so he's been developing with Sain. So that offense is going to be prolific. So it's really going to come down to whether Sain can get the job done and Carlsbad finally gets the open division ring they've been trying to get for so long.
So Sain and Carlsbad seem to be kind of a lock consensus pick de facto that the math favors them to make it. I think that you can look at Cathedral as maybe not having quite as signature of an offense as last year. Scorebook Live has rated them in the top 25 in the state. So you got to just assume it's going to be depth again at Cathedral. That's the way that they do it. Mission Hills seems to be a team that wants to return back to the open division from last year. They are perpetually in the conversation. I think, though, Lincoln and Madison, to me, are the interesting ones this year. Lincoln's defense was good last year, is great this year, potentially. We talked with Chris Fewell before the season. He said that Lincoln, hands down, has the best defense in the county. He knows it because he sees it every day. That could be a determining fact. Like, if Lincoln can shut people down this year, that could be a huge landscape shifter. And Madison has both ends of the football. They got the inside and the outside. They got the size interior that they will need to create some time for their quarterback to find some options. And Jake Jackson is one of the better options in San Diego County. He's already committed to play baseball at San Diego State. And I said it before on our Division 4 preview. I like baseball players playing football with that reckless abandon of like, let's do it, man. I got to get this all out of my system. So he's going to go off this year. Lincoln and Madison, though, neither of them were the Division 1 champions last year, and that was Helix. So you got to assume that Helix has the potential to move up with last year's schedule. So I think, though, Helix, Madison, Lincoln, to me, is more interesting to watch in the open division discussion than the flip side of watching Carlsbad, Cathedral, Mission Hills, because I want to see the ones that are actually jockeying for some of those potential positions where there's going to be a lot of friendly fire, and we'll let something crazy come along and upset the rest of that narrative. Moving down a little bit, because let's assume that Helix, Lincoln, Mission Hills, Torrey Pines, like some of those teams that are upper division, open division, usually will come down and trickle into being some of the favorites for Division 1. But for having an open, we also got to talk about the one other thing as I look over at my show notes. Modern Day Catholic.
Yeah.
It will be something interesting to see if they make open. I think I have them lower down on my conversation notes here. And I apologize for not, doing a clunky segue there, but I think I have them lower down on my division or my open division show notes because their strength of schedule with league is very, very minimal compared to some of these other teams that are going to be in this conversation. So when they start their season with Helix and Cathedral Catholic and some of the other big games they are in must-win mode every single week. And
those are huge for them.
One slip up even if it's a close loss that would normally be forgivable for somebody in that Division I realm, could be a mathematical death sentence for them. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it's kind of where they're at, is they need a lot of support from their league to raise up its profile so that the math can play out a little bit better for Mater Dei. So that'll be the interesting one, because I think we'll know very early on in the season, by week 2 or 3, if Mater Dei is a heavyweight puncher. And
they start off with Cathedral and Carlsbad, so right off the bat, we're gonna know if they're legit or not in that open division.
And it will be tough, because you could see that, say they go out and lose to Carlsbad by 7 and Cathedral by 3. You're like, no, this is the team that we need back in the open. But the math of them at 2 losses, because like say they go on to beat Helix or whatever, like the math of them at 2 losses just doesn't necessarily work out without some other crazy permutations happening. And not to say that they will or won't happen. It just, there hasn't been a team in my recent memory that has had this kind of razor thin margin for error placed on so many huge games. So no disrespect meant to Mater Dei Catholic in terms of having them lower down on my notes and potentially leaving them hanging there. That being said, they fall into that same Madison and Lincoln conversation of, if they're not in open, they're like, this is going to be an actually like a really good Division I championship game, no matter how this season plays out, it feels like.
Yeah, Mater Dei is definitely, it's going to be fun for them to watch. I think those first 2 games are going to be insane to watch. You also got, let's move on to Scripps Ranch, moving up into D1. Jax Leatherwood, the man of last year, they won 2 state championships, I believe, in basketball as well. So you got to see a team like this that's been a prolific Division II, Division III team for a while, moving on up into this big division, the same as the way Mater Dei is. It's going to be really fun to watch what they do. Obviously, Jax graduated a lot of people, so a lot of people are going to have to step up. I believe both his first 2 options graduated. So it's going to come down to how is this chemistry with the new receivers, what can coach come up with, but that's a team that you definitely is going to be in that Division I race 100%.
Let me throw a couple teams at you. El Camino, La Costa Canyon, Eastlake. All 3 of those teams, I think, have always, to me, been in the permutation of like, you're waiting for them to break out. This could be their year. This might not be their year. We've seen El Camino rattle off a couple of championships within the last decade. LCC has had a couple of signature players. Eastlake has been on the verge, if not one. Like, all had really good teams. They all seem like they're one of the ones lurking to me. Who are maybe some other teams that you have as potential spoilers or dark horses, or someone that you're like, hey, I'll take a flyer on them this year? I kind of like what they're rocking.
I think Rancho Bernardo moving up in Division I is huge for that program. That's a lot of fun. They're graduating their leading rusher, so that's going to be tough to see how they replace him. But Rancho Bernardo has been a solid program for a long time. So them finally moving up in this Division I, it's going to be great to see them maybe play some spoiler late in the season. Spoiler teams are the most fun teams in football, I think, just because it's so dope to see a team like that win a big game, and you're like, oh wow, like here comes Rancho Bernardo out of nowhere, it's spoiling. It's like a team that's been a top heavy favorite. So that's a team that can play spoiler. Poway the same way, moving up. Poway always has big offensive linemen, a wrestling school, so their linemen know how to block. They get it done well on the line. So like teams like that, you don't really like think about them at the bottom of this division, but teams that can very well play spoiler, win a few games in the division, and surprise a lot of people.
I think LCC and Steel Canyon are the 2 that I have picked out of this, that I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're capable of producing, especially on the running side of the game. Major Givens, shameless plug. We did an interview with him. You can go check that out on our YouTube at San Diego Prep Insider. He's their running back. He's committed to Montana State. He's coming for 100+ this year, or 100+ a game last year. And you got to assume he's going to be back for that this year. And I like a team that has an established run game at any level of football. A team that has an established run game can, I think, buy themselves some time earlier in the season to figure out their vibe, figure out where they're going to be. And I was talking about it with Major. Steel Canyon tends to have I think maybe they, before Mater Dei, had that least room for error with the biggest possible games, because they would always have a big one late in the season against Helix or a Granite Hills or something like that the last 5 or 6 years to determine, hey, are they going to sneak into open? Or are they going to get a home in these play? Like, they've had some big games on the line. And I think maybe if it's a little crowded at the open division level this year, you could see Major Given settle in comfortably as having you convinced that Steel Canyon is the 3 seed in these D1 playoffs, is the 4, like something like that. They look like they could be one of the more consistent teams in Division I. And I like that for both Steel Canyon and, like I mentioned, La Costa Canyon. Coach Sovacool developed some younger weapons last year that I think once you put some meat on the bones and you get some freshmen their playing time, turn them into sophomores and juniors, you can only expect bigger and brighter things from him. They've got a huge league schedule every single year that they've got to battle through, and nothing shabby to speak of on the non-league schedule. So they could be a deceptive, really dangerous 6-4 or something like that. If you give them just a little bit of wiggle room, they'll give them an inch, they'll take a mile. I like what Sovacool has as well. Colton?
They still can. They have a tough schedule though. Looking at their non-league games, they play Lincoln, they play Cathedral, they play Madison. These are teams we talk about being in the open division, so that's going to help a lot with this next schedule. But if they can steal a win or two for them, that'd be amazing for them. Obviously, their league schedule is always hard every year with Helix and Granite being in there. But if they can get a couple upsets up in here, that Steel Canyon could be a team to watch for sure late in the season.
That's not everybody, but this isn't the entire season. Colton, is there anyone that you want to get around to before we officially send the fans off into scrimmage week in terms of who you are looking at in this Division I race right now?
I think we pretty much nailed everyone, if I'm not mistaken.
You are always mistaken. We are always mistaken. Just ask wrong. Twitter. We are always wrong about everything.
Right.
But look, hey, like I said, this is just week 0. This is the scrimmage week. This is just our start to the preview. We will be back every single week with the podcast episode on what's going on in your division that you are interested in. San Diego CIF section high school football. He is Pro Colton Tull. I'm at Mr. CPED. The show is SD Prep Insider. Make sure you download the SB Live Sports app or follow them at SB Lives TA so you get all the up-to-date information across the spectrum on all the sports, and including now how you can stream all these games, or at least most of them, or you can follow CIF SDS on Twitter and on Instagram for San Diego CIF section news. Colton, let's go watch some games, my man. Excited. We'll talk to you soon. Baby.